have a moment here I want to take a look at with you from The Five on Fox News, and then we'll look at Laura Ingraham on Fox News as well. Both, this is Dana Perino first and then Laura Ingraham, both realizing, if nothing else, that the Democratic Party is being more successful in areas, especially as Dana Perino will highlight, when it comes to running on abortion rights, than maybe was expected or than the Republican Party wants to accept. And then as I've been walking through over the last few days, if the Republican Party, and they don't say this specifically, but it's kind of what they're getting at, doesn't change, which if they want to keep losing, they can keep losing. Fine by me. But just from a strategic point of view, if they don't change, they're going to become incapable of winning national elections. Not that we can take that for granted. We have to make sure that absolutely they can't win. For example, Trump's 2024 race and all of that. And it's not a given. But if they continue to lean into things that are unpopular generally, and especially as the younger generations come into political activism and actually showing up more to the polls and all of that, the GOP is going to have to change, or they're just going to lose because they are not aligned with the views of the majority of the country. And that's showing itself, especially on the issue of abortion rights and the election denying getting rejected in the midterms in multiple elections and countless other issues, but those being two big ones. And we'll talk about this more after walking through these two clips, but very fascinating realizations going on within right-wing media here and there. Take a look at Dana Perino.
I want to point out something else, though. Republicans yesterday lost the Wisconsin Supreme Court race as well. There was something very interesting that happened in Chicago that's connected with Wisconsin in my mind. Well, two things, actually. This guy, the new mayor, Brandon Johnson, most of the ads that he did against Paul Vallas were about abortion. Because 10 years or so ago, Paul Vallas said something mildly supportive of a pro-life position, but then said, but I just want everybody to do their own thing. But for me personally, I would be pro-life. So they tagged him as a pro-life crazy nut, and there was no response on it. And that has nothing to do with the running of a city. Now go next door to Wisconsin. Republicans lose by 10 points. Now, they won a lot of the conservative ballot issues, the issues that are on the ballot, but the candidate on the Republican Supreme Court case, he lost by 10 points. And Republicans used to be able to count on their voters turning out in the midterms. The left has really woken up to making sure that Gen Z gets out and vote. If you look at the vote and where it came from, especially in Wisconsin, at the University of Madison, for example, University of Wisconsin in Madison, it was staggering. The numbers are staggering, and that is going to happen all across the country.
Right. So we covered all in one segment how you had the Wisconsin Supreme Court election result where the more liberal candidate won by a significant margin. You had the progressive in the Chicago mayoral race, and you have actions in Michigan being taken to protect abortion rights, the voting yes, the voters voting yes on a constitutional amendment to protect reproductive rights. And we saw the results in Kansas to protect reproductive rights. And as I said, the midterms with the rejection of election deniers and anti-abortion individuals. And that's significant. It's playing a huge role, and Republicans don't want to deal with that. They don't want to change in a response to that. Take a look at Laura Ingraham.
A focus on getting this man and getting him again and getting him again. They're not going to stop. Right. And we find out tonight that the Wisconsin Supreme Court flipped and became controlled by the Democrats. There was that one race that they thought might go to the Republican. Right. Republicans lost that. So the Republican Party has enormous challenges, even in the headwinds that the Democrats have created with this horrific economy. So you got to get more votes somewhere. You got to get the votes in order to have the power. Democrats last election and in the midterms had the votes, more votes that they thought they were going to get.
So there's her trying to highlight the Republican Party needs to find a way to get votes. And you're seeing a panic within some of these right-wing media figures and likely politicians as well, because they created this monster. They created a world where this radical, detached from reality part of the party could exist and could drive the agenda of the party. They could make all of politics this big political stunt show and focusing on the most radical positions within the party and all of that. And the House majority, the Republican House majority, focusing on all these different conspiracy-driven investigations and all of that. And it is the monster that Fox News helped to create. But now they're panicking because it's hurting them electorally. And it's going to be fascinating to watch how that develops, because it's not going to be sustainable. Now, that is if we can get through the dangerous period of time where these anti-democratic views could do so much damage to our democratic process, that the future that we're in there is so scary that it doesn't relate to the analysis I'm giving. But if we get through this moment and can protect our democracy, then the reality the Republican Party is in is a very bad one for them, unless they change and stop allowing the most radical part of the party to drive the agenda, as I said, which is definitely the case. And they keep choosing these candidates. And it's because a big part of the Republican Party is the MAGA election denying group. So they don't think they're losing, right? They can't say we need to stop picking such radical candidates because we just keep losing, because they think it's being stolen. So of course they're going to continue with the people who are saying it's stolen, and they're going to, if we can get them in, fight to make it not get stolen, because they don't think that they're legitimately losing. And that causes a cycle where enough of the base and enough of these elections is siding with the conspiracy theorists, with the election deniers, with the completely out of touch on abortion rights candidate. And that's part of it. And some just don't want to compromise, but part of it is they genuinely don't think people are losing. And then they will hopefully continue to lose, because people generally in the United States today, the majority is not on board with that ideology. And that's a good thing. And we will see how the Republican Party responds. But I say once again, number one, this is the monster they created. So now they're having to deal with it. The negative repercussions for them. In the short term, it was beneficial to rile people up and let all these conspiracy theories run wild and allow them to detach from reality. Now it's hurting them. And that is on them. And number two, I'm not advocating for us to take that for granted. We have to do everything to make sure that's the reality, that they do indeed continue to lose more than expected. And when they're able to get in power, like Marjorie Greene in a really red district, we'll have a lot of those figures still. And if Trump were able to win, so much damage can be done. And when you know you're not actually popular enough to consistently win elections, but you're able to get your hands on power, that's when very dangerous things are done. And that's what we have to watch out for. And it's part of why I want to continue this discussion, to remind everyone they're not a party that, based on their ideology, based on their policy positions, can win within the current reality. And I mean, nationally, they can win here and there, but nationally, consistently, and especially as the younger generation gets active through just running on their beliefs. So they're going to have to find ways to attain power in other ways, being dishonest about their beliefs, distracting from their beliefs, and possibly just all around trying to subvert our democracy as Trump did. Very notable moment, and honestly, terrifying moment, but good that America is definitely fed up, at least the majority, with the very radical part of the Republican Party.